Howdy folks, Alex Wiseman here. I'm coming to you a little casual today because I have a cold and I'm at home, so pardon the hat and the hoodie here. This is just me being me. We are in week 5 of our class, Grant Writing and Fundraising in International Education Development. And our groups are underway with their grant proposals, each of them working on a unique one. And I think it's kind of exciting the way that they're developing. We are having a little bit of weather in the Lehigh Valley, and so we're going to be doing this class online for this week. And we'll also be doing class online for next week because I'll be out of town, but I'll explain more of that as we get when we get to that point. So let's talk a little bit about week 5. For week 5, if you've got your syllabus, we said that this week we're going to be reflecting on our introductions, doing a peer review of our introductions, and discussing how to articulate goals and objectives. And we will also discuss the role of the social entrepreneur and how this relates to grant writing and fundraising in international education development. In this series of slides, I really want to focus on the peer review of your introductions and then discussing and articulating goals and objectives. And pardon me, I do have a cold, so I will be sniffing, and occasionally I might pause to sneeze. Okay. Well, having said that, there is a definite need for us to review our introductions, and you will be able to access the introductions on the discussion board of our course site. So if you need to do this, and since we're not meeting live this week because of the snow, I'd like for you to go to our course site, and I'd like for you to download one of the actually, what I'd like for you to do, they're listed in order. I'd like for you to go down the list and just, whichever one is your group's, take the next one in the list and download that. That's the one you'll peer review. If you're the bottom 3 listed, then if you're this group at the bottom, then the next one you just go back up to the top, right? So if this is your group's intro, then you're going to download and peer review the group intro for the top. So like group A will review group B, and group B will review group C, and group C will review group A. You see how it works. Okay. And we're going to do it a little differently this time. We're going to actually write out a peer review, and we're going to do it individually. We've been doing these as groups in the past couple of weeks, and I wanted us to have a chance to do them individually. And then if we were meeting together, we would come back in one group and we review them together before we submitted our reviews back to the original group. Making this more complicated than it needs to be. Just get out a piece of paper or type it, as you can see down here, in an email that you would send to the group. You're going to draft it right now, and to do so we're going to work through some questions. So we're going to start with the introduction, and if you you've written one and submitted it, and if you were to look back at the assignment sheet in our syllabus, you would see that there are 4 main sections to the introduction that I asked you to include: the statement of the problem, the purpose of the program or project, the goals or objectives, and the significance of the program or project. And remember that introductions help establish your credibility as a grant applicant. It should cover the key elements of your proposal, including those 4 components I just listed. But it's more of an executive summary than the actual details. So you're still summarizing for the reader, for the grant maker. Right? Your goal is to write the introduction in such a way that you give enough information, but in a succinct enough way that the grant funder or the decision maker who is reading your proposal will read beyond the introduction. If you get them to read beyond the introduction, that means you've won half the battle, quite frankly. So we're going to start by looking at the statement of the problem. The statement of the problem should provide a background and a rationale for the proposed program or project and establish the need and relevance of it. So it's a tall order for the statement of the problem. So as we move through this, we're going to look only at the statement of the problem section of the introduction that you are reviewing. What I'd like for you to do, and you'll see that these instructions become kind of repetitive, I'd like for you to circle and label the section that provides the background for the proposed program or project. So literally, if there was some text there, you would circle where you thought the background for the proposed program or project was explained, and you would label that background. This is just a visual way to show the group that whose introduction you're reviewing that you can see it. Right? It needs to be identifiable. If it is so hidden, or if it is not clear that there's a background section to your statement of the problem, then that's a problem, because that means that the grant funder can't see it either. So this is just saying, hey, I see it, and here it is. Now, when you are looking at your reviewed introduction, when you get the information back, pardon me, you should make sure that the part that was circled and labeled background is actually the part that you think is the background. And if it isn't, you've miscommunicated. Or if you don't have a background and they can't find it, you've miscommunicated. Right? So you have to figure that out. All right, back to what you're doing. So as a peer reviewer, you're circling and labeling the section that provides the background, and then you're writing a 1 to 2 sentence summary of the background that's provided in the introduction that you're reviewing. This is in your own words, right? In your own words. I do not want you to simply cut and paste. Do not do that. I want you to actually synthesize what the introduction says the background is, and in your own words summarize it in 1 to 2 sentences. Remember, this is the written part that you are going to be submitting back to the group whose introduction you're reviewing. You're going to give them, obviously, a copy of the introduction that you've marked on, where you've circled or highlighted or whatever you've done to show that you see these particular parts, like the background that we just did. But you're also drafting on a separate piece of paper or an electronic document or email or something this 1 to 2 sentence summary of the background. So far, so good? All right. So this is the way we're going to work through the introduction. For each of these sections, I'm going to have you circle and label particular sections within the subsections, and then I'm going to have you write a 1 to 2 sentence summary in your own words of whatever it is that we're highlighting. And if you'd like a copy of these slides, they are available. They're linked on our course site. You can download them if you want to work off them separately, or print them off to have in front of you as you work through this on your own. As you move on then, circle and label the section of the statement of the problem, we're still in that section, that provides the rationale for the proposed program or project. Remember, the rationale is simply the reason why you're doing it. Right? There needs to be some understanding, some reason, some rationale for why this program or project needs to be implemented. And then, of course, you're going to write a 1 to 2 sentence summary of the rationale that's provided. Now, I'm going to go more quickly through the rest of these slides for the peer review, because what I really want you to do is to download those slides, perhaps print them off or have them available to you on your computer, and take your time to work through the introduction. You are, however, required to do this peer review. This isn't something that you can just say, well, we're not having a live class this week, so I'm not going to do it. You must do it. And what I'd like for you to do is I would like for you to share your marked up version of that introduction and your written statement, not necessarily in an email, although you can email it as well, but in a discussion board posting. Okay? So in a discussion board posting, you're going to be giving feedback to the original group. So we have started by looking at the statement of the problem. You've circled and labeled the background and provided a 1 to 2 sentence summary. Then you've circled and labeled the rationale in the statement of problem section and written a 1 to 2 sentence summary in your own words, of the rationale. Then, still in the statement of the problem section, I'd like for you to circle and label the section that establishes the need. What is the part that says this is why we need it? I know you've got the rationale. This is why it exists, or why we should have it. Does that overlap with the need? Is that the same thing as the need? If so, okay, but you need to write that out. If you see that there is a more specific or a better articulated need statement, then you should make that clear. Next, in the statement of the problem section, you're going to circle and label the section that establishes the relevance of the proposed project or program. Now remember, when you're circling and labeling these sections, you might be overlapping, right? So you can do this a couple of different ways. You can use different colors to circle or to highlight, or however you're doing it. You can, there are all sorts of tools you can use. If you're looking at this on Microsoft Word and you use the track changes function, you can insert comments. You can write in little things in the text themselves and they will be highlighted. You need to figure out how you're going to do that. But I understand, and I think the groups that you're reviewing understand, is that when you circle and label these sections, there often will be some overlap. The key is that you can identify where it is. Next, I'd like for you to write a 1 to 2 sentence summary of the stated relevance of the proposed program or project. And that's all we're going to do for the statement of the problem section. So I'm just going back again. You're highlighting, you're circling and labeling, and then summarizing the background, the rationale, the need, and the relevance, understanding that there may be some overlap, but that you're going to be able to highlight and articulate each one of those even if there is some overlap. Pardon me. Next, you're going to look at the purpose of the program or project section. And just like before, you're going to be circling and labeling particular subsections, and then you're going to be writing 1 to 2 sentence summaries in your own words of those subsections. So the first thing I'd like for you to do is circle and label the subsection that directly states the purpose. What is the purpose of the proposed program or project? If it was one sentence, that would be super awesome because it would get right to the point. If it's more than that, I understand. Then write a summary of it in your own words. Next, I would like for you to circle and label the section of the purpose section that establishes what the new methodologies or new territory are, and then summarize them in your own words. The new methodologies or new territory. What is this contributing that hasn't already been done? That's absolutely essential. Right? If you are proposing that somebody is going to give you a rather large sum of money to do something, it better be something that really makes a difference. And there is often an easy way to make a difference by doing something that nobody has done before and making it something that makes sense, has a reason, has a predicted outcome, which we'll get to in a second. So what is new? What are you doing that hasn't been done before? How are you doing it in a way that hasn't been done before? What are you covering that hasn't been covered before? You need to make that pop for the reader. And so you want to identify what the intro that you're reviewing has done to make that pop for the reader. Next, we're going to be moving on to the goals or objectives section. We're already on section 3 of the introduction. Circle and label the section that identifies the anticipated outcomes, and then write a 1 to 2 sentence summary in your own words of the anticipated outcomes. What are the anticipated outcomes? If this group got to implement their program, what would actually change? Okay. That's going to be important. And we're going to talk a little bit more about goals and objectives later, but one of the things that we want to make sure that they're doing right now is highlighting just in general what the outcome of the program is going to be, so that the grant maker will read past the intro. Will read that and say, that's something that we're interested in achieving. Next, I want you to circle and label the section of the goals or objectives that matches outcomes to needs. There needs to be some sort of an overt matching between outcomes and the needs that are identified in the statement of the problem. And then I want you obviously to write a 1 to 2 sentence summary in your own words that get at that. Next, circle and label the section of the goals or objectives section that lists the main goals and objectives. What are they? And then I'd like for you to, this is a little different than before, write or copy the list of main goals and objectives of the proposed program exactly as they are written. This is because I want you to, as the reviewer, to highlight for the group that you're reviewing whether or not their goals or objectives make sense standing on their own. If you just see them listed, does it actually mean anything? That's going to be important. I'm going to pause here. I'm going to come back with my cold and everything, and we're going to finish out the peer review of the introduction.